The New York Times is reporting the U.S. government is nearing the end of a sweeping antitrust investigation into Apple. We're joined now by David McCabe, a reporter with the New York Times who broke the story. And David, you're keeping us busy on a Friday. Great story, David. Maybe just to start, for viewers, David, maybe just walk us through the story. What is the Justice Department focused on here, David, when it comes to Apple?
So thanks for having me. The Justice Department is in the late stages of an investigation into Apple's practices. It's been a pretty expansive investigation. And what agency officials are really focused on is the way that Apple keeps users inside its ecosystem and keeps competitors out, with the iPhone at the center.
And how is that happening? You know, what are some examples that the Justice Department might be focusing on, David? It's Julie here, hi, in terms of what it's looking into here?
So we know that they're looking into, for example, the way that the Apple Watch, the smartwatch, works better with the iPhone than competing smartwatch brands. So if you look online, for example, you'll see that Garmin users have complained in Apple support forums about the fact that they can't necessarily reply to certain texts from their Garmin watch through their iPhone, or see certain notifications or tweak their notification status. So they're looking at things like that pair one Apple product with the iPhone. They also appear to be looking at the payments ecosystem, where Apple has built a pretty robust payments business through Apple Pay, but has not offered the same access to its payment technology or chip technology to banks and financial services firms that might want to do the same.
And David, I know I read in your story, Apple declined to comment for your piece, but you also know that Apple has made this sort of this kind of reaction, this response in the past, right? Basically saying, yes, we integrate the hardware, the services, the chips, and that's why our products work so well. That's why iPhone users are so loyal and satisfied, right?
Yeah, I mean, they say that this ecosystem is a good thing. They've said in response to past criticism that they don't run afoul of antitrust law, and they've said that the smartphone market is competitive. And so, yes, they did decline to comment, but they've made it clear before that they think that criticisms that they're anti-competitive are off base.
The European Commission has also focused on Apple, and in particular has focused on the App Store and some of the other Apple services products. When we look at that situation, can we learn anything about, for example, how Apple might react or the effect on the business?
Well, I think broadly, tech companies have pushed back fairly hard on the European efforts to regulate or police the companies. Apple is one of the companies that will have to comply with the Digital Markets Act. This is Europe's new antitrust regulation. And interestingly, one thing we reported is that the Department of Justice, the resolution of their investigation, may hinge a bit on how Apple ultimately complies with that law. So, I think one thing that we know for sure is that all of these regulatory efforts around the world are sort of interlinked together in the effect that they have.
Well, David, thank you so much for joining us to run us through the story here. We will keep our eyes out for more developments coming soon. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.